There is a plant that grows wild in ditches and cracks in pavement across 3 continents. It produces real lather and real foam. It makes enough to wash your hair every single day for the rest of your life without ever buying another bottle of shampoo. Monks carried it across medieval Europe. Textile mills built entire industries around it. Museum conservators still trust it with priceless artifacts today. The shampoo industry buried it anyway. Long before the first bar of soap was pressed in a mold, long before the first chemical surfactant was synthesized in a laboratory, human beings had a foaming cleanser that grew beside the rivers they bathed in. They did not invent it, they discovered it. And they used it for hundreds of generations. The earliest known manufactured soap dates back nearly 5,000 years to ancient Babylon. But that soap was designed for washing textiles and cleaning wool, not for the human body. The first reliable records of people using soap directly on their own skin do not appear until the 4th century. That means, for most of recorded human history, people cleaned themselves without manufactured soap of any kind. And yet they were clean, they washed their hair, they scrubbed their skin, they stayed remarkably healthy. The answer was growing in the ground beneath their feet the entire time. In the Middle Ages, Franciscan and Dominican monks transported a specific plant across Europe. They called it a gift from God intended to keep them clean. By the end of the 1500s, this plant had become the standard washing agent in homes and workshops across England. Not because of marketing, not because of trade agreements, because it worked better than anything else available. These monasteries were not primitive outposts. They had engineered water systems running through stone corridors, organized latrines, scheduled bathing routines. Medieval monks and nuns treated physical cleanliness as a direct expression of inner purity. They had access to every cleaning method known in their era, and they chose this plant above everything else. But it was not only monks who understood what this plant could do. The European textile industry built its entire cleaning operation around it. The professionals who washed, softened, and finished cloth were called fullers. And fullers discovered that when you boil the leaves and roots of this plant in water, you get a lather that cleans the most delicate fabrics without damaging a single thread. The ruffles and lace worn by the Tudor court in England were washed in it. The fine silks that moved through French merchant houses were finished with it. Entire mills across northern France were built with this plant growing in deliberate rows beside them, planted on purpose, harvested continuously, season after season. In ancient Rome, it served as a water softener in public baths. In the Swiss Alps, shepherds used it to wash their flocks before market. In 13th century Italy, monks discovered it worked as a disinfectant for surfaces and instruments. And here is the detail that should stop you in your tracks. Museum conservators at some of the most prestigious institutions in the world still use extracts of this plant today. As recently as the 1960s, it was still being applied in European museums to clean antique tapestries, the most irreplaceable fabrics on earth. Medieval embroidery stitched by hand 600 years ago, centuries-old lace that modern chemical detergents would dissolve on contact. These artifacts are entrusted to a plant that grows wild in roadside ditches along English country lanes. Meanwhile, you wash your hair every morning with petroleum derivatives from a plastic bottle. The plant is called soapwort. Its scientific name is Saponaria officinalis. The word saponaria comes from the Latin sapo, meaning soap. The word officinalis in Latin means of the shops. That name refers to centuries of commercial use in the textile shops of Europe, where fullers relied on it daily. Some people call it bouncing bet. Others call it fuller's herb, or hedge pink, or soapweed. It is a perennial flowering plant in the carnation family. It blooms delicate pink or white flowers from early summer through September. They form fragrant clusters that attract bees and butterflies. It grows wild across Europe, Western Asia, and North America. It was probably first carried to the Americas by Puritans crossing the Atlantic. Once it arrived, it spread on its own through underground root networks and now grows wild across the United States and southern Canada, from New England roadsides to Pacific Northwest riverbanks. You have walked past this plant 1,000 times. You may have pulled it out of your garden last weekend and tossed it in the compost bin without a second thought. Here is why it works. The leaves, roots, shoots, and stems of soapwort contain natural compounds called saponins. These are genuine cleaning agents. They are structurally similar to the surfactants found in commercial shampoo and household detergent. When you crush soapwort into water, it creates real foam, real lather. It breaks down oils and lifts dirt from surfaces the same way synthetic soap does. The roots are the most powerful part of the plant. During summer, when the flowers are in full bloom, the saponin concentration in the roots can reach 20%. Scientists have isolated at least 12 distinct cleaning compounds from the roots alone. Research has confirmed that these saponins fight bacteria, reduce inflammation, and have natural astringent properties that tighten and protect skin tissue. This is not a folk remedy. This is not grandmother mythology. This is the same chemistry that the world's finest museums trust with priceless, irreplaceable artifacts that no synthetic product is allowed to touch. Soapwort was never an isolated European secret. Every inhabited continent developed its own version of the same solution. In India, the traditional hair washing system has been in continuous use for thousands of years. Women across the subcontinent wash their hair with a combination of 3 plants: amla, Indian gooseberry, retha, the fruit of the soapnut tree, and shikakai, a thorny climbing shrub that grows wild in the warm plains of central India. All 3 contain the same class of saponin compounds found in soapwort. They create a mild lather that removes dirt and excess oil without stripping the scalp bare. Modern laboratory analysis has confirmed exactly what Indian grandmothers passed down for generations. These plants clean hair gently and effectively without any of the side effects associated with industrial surfactants. The use of plant-based hair cleansers on the Indian subcontinent can be traced back to the age of pre-Harappan civilization. That means people in what is now Pakistan and northwestern India were washing their hair with botanical preparations more than 4,000 years ago, before the pyramids at Giza were completed. Native Americans valued personal cleanliness but did not use manufactured soap. Instead, they relied on plants containing the same saponin chemistry: yucca root, crushed and lathered in the desert Southwest; soap root dug from the hillsides of California; small agave harvested across the arid regions of the Great Basin. Different plants, different landscapes, same foaming chemistry, same clean result. In Turkey, Lebanon, and Syria, the root of soapwort is still prized today, and not only for cleaning. In the preparation of traditional Middle Eastern confections like halva and nougat, soapwort extract creates the distinctively light and fluffy phloem that gives these sweets their unique texture. The same plant that washes your hair also makes your dessert. Horse chestnuts collected across Britain and France contain saponins. Soapberry trees grow wild throughout the tropics from Southeast Asia to Central America. Soapwort blankets the entire temperate zone of the Northern Hemisphere. Different continents, different cultures, different centuries, different languages, same chemistry, same solution, and somehow in the span of just 2 generations, the modern world replaced all of it with a single synthetic molecule manufactured in a chemical plant. That molecule is called sodium lauryl sulfate. You will find it listed as SLS on the back of nearly every shampoo bottle sitting in your shower right now. It is the primary foaming agent powering the global shampoo industry. Before the Second World War, plant-based cleansing was still normal across much of the world. During the war years, raw materials for traditional soap became difficult to source. Synthetic detergents stepped in as cheap, factory-made replacements. After the war ended in 1945, the chemical industry never stepped back. It kept pushing synthetics. Not because they were better for your hair or your skin, because they were cheaper to manufacture at industrial scale and easier to ship across continents in identical bottles. That single economic calculation changed the hygiene habits of nearly every person on the planet. Researchers have studied what SLS actually does to human skin when applied repeatedly. Controlled studies found that SLS causes measurable irritant contact dermatitis at multiple concentrations. Scientists applied a 1% SLS solution to skin for 24 hours. When they examined the tissue, they found SLS had penetrated deep into the outer layers and accumulated at levels known to trigger inflammatory responses. Traces of the chemical were still detectable in tissue 7 days after a single application. One wash, 1 day. Residue lasting a full week inside your skin. SLS does not just clean your scalp, it disrupts the natural bacterial community living on your skin surface. That community is not a problem to be scrubbed away. It is your first line of biological defense. When you strip it with industrial surfactants every morning, you are dismantling a protective ecosystem that evolved over millions of years. Additional research found that SLS deposited heavily on skin surfaces and concentrated specifically inside hair follicles. The scientists noted that this accumulation could directly damage the follicle itself. They also observed that SLS produced significant numbers of clogged pores at concentrations of just 1% and 5%. The shampoo that promises to clean your hair may be damaging the very follicles it grows from. Now compare that to what happens when you use soapwort instead. Direct laboratory comparison found that soapwort extract is dramatically gentler than SLS on both proteins and lipids in skin tissue. It cleans effectively while leaving the protective barriers of the scalp largely intact. The plant that Franciscan monks called a gift from God turns out to be measurably safer than the chemical that replaced it 400 years later. The global shampoo market was valued at $38 billion in 2025. That market depends entirely on consumers purchasing new plastic bottles of synthetic surfactant every single month. Every 4 weeks, another trip to the store. Every 4 weeks, another transaction processed. The entire business model is engineered around repeat consumption that never ends. Soapwort is a perennial. Plant it once. It returns every single year without replanting. It spreads through underground root networks called rhizomes that push outward season after season. It requires no fertilizer because it thrives in poor and neglected soil. It requires no pesticide because almost nothing in nature attacks it. It requires no irrigation beyond ordinary rainfall. And it cannot be patented because it is a wild plant growing freely in the public domain. A single planting becomes a permanent shampoo source. A permanent source generates zero recurring revenue for anyone. Zero recurring revenue attracts zero corporate investment. Zero corporate investment means zero advertising budget. And zero advertising means 3 generations of human beings grow up believing without question that shampoo only comes from a plastic bottle on a fluorescent-lit shelf between the conditioner and the body wash. This is not conspiracy. This is economics. You can start soapwort from seed or from a root division shared by a neighbor who is probably trying to get rid of it. It grows in full sun or partial shade. It adapts to nearly any soil type, from sandy loam to heavy clay. If you want to control its enthusiastic spreading habit, plant it in a large bucket or container on your porch. One plant becomes a colony within a single growing season. One colony becomes a permanent, self-expanding supply that never needs replanting. Harvest the leaves and flowers during full bloom. That is typically midsummer, June through August, depending on your climate zone. The roots are best dug in autumn when saponin content reaches its annual peak. Chop the fresh plant material and drop it into a pot of boiling water. Cover the pot. Let it simmer for about 15 minutes. Remove it from the heat. Let it cool completely. Then strain the liquid through cheesecloth or a clean kitchen towel into a jar. What you are holding is a natural foaming hair cleanser ready to use immediately. You can add a drop of rosemary oil or mint oil for scent if you prefer. The lather will be softer and less aggressive than commercial shampoo. That is exactly the point. It cleans your hair without destroying the natural oils your scalp produces to protect itself. It takes a few washes for your hair to adjust. After that, most people never reach for a plastic bottle again. The liquid keeps for about 1 week at room temperature. For longer storage, dry the roots in autumn on a screen in a warm room and keep them in a sealed jar in your pantry. Whenever you need shampoo, simmer a handful of dried root pieces in water for 15 minutes and strain. A single autumn harvest provides enough dried root for an entire year of washing. After each soapwort wash, pour an apple cider vinegar rinse through your hair. 1 part vinegar to 4 parts water. This restores the natural pH balance of your scalp and adds a noticeable shine that no commercial conditioner can replicate. Your great-grandmother almost certainly did exactly this, but soapwort was never meant to work in isolation. The old knowledge systems were never built around a single product. They were complete approaches to hair care that the shampoo industry compressed into 1 bottle and then sold back to you at a monthly markup. In India, the process begins hours before any washing takes place. The traditional method starts with warm coconut oil applied directly to the scalp and massaged deeply into the roots. This technique is called champi. That word traveled through colonial trade routes and eventually became the English word shampoo. The oil nourishes the hair shaft. The massage stimulates blood flow to the follicles. Only after the oil has done its work does the actual washing begin with a paste of Retha and Shikakai. Oil first, then cleanse. The industrial shampoo model reversed this entire sequence and told you the oil was the problem. A rosemary tea rinse stimulates the scalp naturally. Nettle tea poured through the hair after washing strengthens the shaft from root to tip. An egg wash delivers concentrated protein directly where thinning hair needs it most. These are not trendy wellness experiments from an Instagram influencer. These are techniques that billions of people across dozens of cultures use daily for centuries before a chemical company told them they needed a factory product instead. One important note about growing soapwort. This is a potent plant. It is excellent for external use on hair and skin, but it is not meant to be consumed internally. The same saponins that produce such effective cleaning foam are not safe to swallow. Keep it out of your mouth. Do a patch test on the inside of your wrist if you have sensitive skin before using it on your scalp. Keep it away from open cuts or wounds. The monks who carried it across Europe respected this plant deeply. That is exactly why it survived for centuries in their gardens. The shampoo industry will not tell you about this plant. It does not appear on any ingredient label in any store. No corporation packages it. No brand generates profit from it growing wild in a ditch beside a quiet country road in Somerset or Vermont or British Columbia. But soapwort grows along every hedgerow and rail line and crumbling stone wall and abandoned garden edge across the entire temperate world. $38 billion moves through the global shampoo market every single year. Petrochemical surfactants are synthesized in industrial plants, trucked to bottling facilities, sealed in plastic containers, loaded onto cargo ships, stacked on warehouse pallets, shelved under fluorescent lights, scanned at registers, carried home in bags, squeezed out, rinsed down the drain, and purchased again 4 weeks later. Meanwhile, this plant grows within walking distance of nearly every human settlement in the Northern Hemisphere. It produces real soap. It has always produced real soap. It will keep producing real soap long after the last plastic shampoo bottle cracks apart in a landfill and the last drop of sodium lauryl sulfate washes into a river and floats downstream toward the ocean. Monks knew it. Fullers knew it. Museum conservators still know it. Your great-grandmother probably knew it too. The only question is whether you will plant it. Oh, and if longevity fascinates you, my friend runs a channel called The Centenarian's Garden, all about Blue Zone secrets and what actually helps people live past 100. Go check them out. You won't regret it.